I should thank you. I should thank Vani and Vasudevan for the nice words they have spoken about me. And I have chosen for a change a story. It is Ramayana story, and we are all familiar with the story of Ramayana. Rama is Maryada Purushottama. Maryada Purushottama means, he is looked up. He is the model. He has been the model for several centuries. Take the name of Rama, we think of the ideals. What do we mean by ideals? The ideals are propelled by ideas. We have some ideas come into our mind, and as civilization advances, our ideas, the range of our ideas, the varieties of our ideas, they keep changing. So it's a wonder of wonders that even today, even in this, day of technological advancement, we still look up towards Sri Ram, and we have all acknowledged the ideals portrayed by Valmiki. What is Valmiki? Valmiki is our conscience keeper. Vyasa is our conscience keeper. These two, Vyasa and Valmiki, have molded our culture. They have molded our thinking. They have molded our civilization. They have molded our nation. Nation means it is not just a geographical area, but what it stands for, what the values that we stand for. The values, once and for all, they have fixed. And even today, they hold good. This is a marvel. There is no other nation, there is no other community, there is no other civilization where you have such an old civilization. It is continuing. It is the continuity that is marvelous. Elsewhere also, in other parts of the globe, we have some ancient civilizations, but they are all old. Old civilizations, they die, and new civilizations, new cultures, new thinkings, new values, new modes, new ideas, they come into being. But if you think for a while that we swear by Valmiki, we swear by Vyasa, and what these two represent, they are our national poets, and both Vyasa and Valmiki, they swear by the Vedas. What are the Vedas? You all know that it is the Rig Veda which represents the oldest document of human beings. There is no other document, there is no other Sahitya, there is no other literature, literary piece, which is as old as the Rig Veda. And Rig Veda is the essence of the four Vedas, because though we say four Vedas, it's only Rig Veda. All the mantras are collected together in the Rig Veda. Rig itself means mantra. All the mantras are collected together and it is called Rig Veda Samhita. Samhita is collection of all the rigs. If the rigs are adopted for the conduct of or the organization of some yajna, that is a ritual. Rituals are of many kinds. It may be a small ritual, it may be a very large ritual like Somayaga, which will go on for months together, for a whole year, and it can be extended also. And it can be in a Shomedha Yaga, where it is not just a ritual restricted to religion, but politics is there, sociology is there, community welfare is there, and governing is there. So yajna is a very complex institution. The whole universe, the dynamism of the universe is also taken as yajna. In fact, Lord Vishnu is also Yajno Vai Vishnu. This is an often repeated statement in the Veda. What is Vishnu? What is your God? The God, it's an idea. It's the idea of organization. It is the idea of community welfare. And what is Agni? Agni is Rudra. So our concept of gods, we call them Deva. What do you mean by Deva? Deva is something that strikes you. Deva is something that is scintillating. Deva is something that is, Deva, Divu. Divu is enlightening. Something that is bright. So as civilization started, at the dawn of human civilization, when human beings looked up and saw the expanse of the universe, each star, each of the planets, each of the galaxies, it is something marvelous that even before we invented the telescope in ancient India, the seers had exactly given what later, after Galileo, what the so-called modern science tried to visualize. And the dates of the Mahabharata war, the dates of the Rama Setu, how the monkeys built a bridge and went from this shore to the other shore. They entered into the Lanka. Now that has all been now today recorded, and the NASA has taken a picture also. It's all evident. And thanks to Dr. Rao, we know what is Dwaraka. And the story of Dwaraka being submerged in sea is not just a story, but it's a fact. So marine archaeology has today shown us the truth. So astrology and marine archaeology, they tell that the past of India is not just mythology, but it is a factual history. Scholars know throughout the world they have accepted. We are aware. So Divu, what is seen above, the gigantic immensity of the vast horizon, it made the people in India amazed, They were looking up, and whatever was bright, whatever was attracting, that was called Divu, that was called Deva. So throughout the Vedic literature, you have so many ideas, and each idea is a god. So man was astonished how this universe, this gigantic universe, this immense universe is functioning, and how the planets are going around, how the galaxies are there. And then whatever that came to his mind, he addressed it, he talked to it, and he conceived it as God, as a power center. And that is how we have our Mitra, our Varuna, our Aditya, our Vishnu, our Rudra. So many gods. How many? Thousands of gods. Actually, there is a number given, 33 crores of gods. So what's a god then? God in ancient India, it is not so only in India, in other parts of the world also, man looked up and he saw something that was beyond him. Even today it is beyond us. There is no difference. There is no difference between what it was 10,000 years ago and what it is today. What the earlier saints, the earlier seers, the earlier scientists, they say today we develop on that. It is a continuum, it's a continuity. But this continuity is very important. It is not that, I cut off from the past. It is not possible for me to start somewhere from the beginning. Why I am telling all this? It's because what Vyasa and Valmiki have done is they have, given the essence of the Veda, the same old wine in new bottles. Vyasa found it Anantavai Vedaha. The Vedas and the Vedic deities, the ideas in the Veda, the messages in the Veda, they have got to be given afresh. And therefore, it is no more possible for human beings to look up only to the gods. In the stories of Mahabharata and Ramayana, we bring divinity to our own level. We bring it down We have to see divinity in humanity. That is what Vyasa did. That's what Valmiki did. It is not always enough if you look up and satisfy yourself with the propitiation of Indra or Varuna or Yama or the Ashtadikpalakas. This is the story that we have, in the story of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna argues with his father. He argues with Nandagopa, what is this you are doing? And Nandagopa tells, we are, the god of rain. It is Indra who showers rain, and we have got to please him. And therefore, we are having this vrata. We are having this, this Govardhana Parvata. We all go to the Govardhana Parvata, and once a year we propitiate. Now, there was an argument. It's a very interesting argument if you can read it in Bhagavata and other Puranas, all, recorded by Vyasa. All the Puranas are written by Vyasa. All the Vedas are restructured. That is why he is called Veda Vyasa. He restructured, as it were. And that's why he is Vyasa. And it is not only that he restructured the whole Vedic literature, he made him into four. It's not only that, but it was he who wrote Mahabharata. It was he who wrote Brahma Sutra. So the Brahma Sutra and Bhagavad Gita, which is a part of the Mahabharata, and the Upanishads, they form the very basis of Vedanta. And Vedanta happens to be the finest flower which incorporates into itself the findings of all our branches of Indian philosophy, the darshanas. So ultimately, all our thinking now, Veda, the essence of Veda is given to us through Vedanta, and the Vedanta was established on the basis of what Vyasa told, what Valmiki told. In fact, when we start the study of Ramayana or the Parayanam of Ramayana, we recite Vede Vedye Pare Pumsi Jate Dasharathatmaje. When Rama descended, it is avatar. Rama descended as a human being here. He came down onto our earth at that time when the God, what is God? God is an idea. The soul, I and you, we are only, sparks. What we think that we are, this body which has its own physical dimension, that is not you. This is what we have been telling. So ultimately, God is, we call him the Paranjyoti. The ultimate aim of all the Vedas is to familiarize us with that Paranjyoti. When that Paranjyoti comes down as Sri Rama, we are told that the Veda itself also came down and it was born as Ramayana, and Valmiki is the seer. So we have before Vyasa and Valmiki so many seers like Vasishtha, like Kashyapa, like Bharadwaja, so many. Atri, Bhrigu, Kutsa, Vasishtha, Gautama, Kashyapa. But Vyasa and Valmiki, they are seers, no doubt, but they are not Vedic seers, but they are seers who have adapted the essence of the Vedas and they have bottled it anew and they have been given. That is it's a beauty, that every epoch we keep as civilization grows, as knowledge expands, we have to adopt. Adoption is very important. Updating is very important. So these two, Vyasa and Valmiki, they adapted and updated the Veda. And what is this updation? As I was telling you a little while earlier, the divinity has to be brought down. You have to see divinity in humanity. You have to live as a human being here. Because earlier it was possible for you to remain secluded, to be in solitude. Because people lived in solitude perhaps, people lived in small communities, and space and time, they were not as united as it is today. United in the sense of coming together. The whole globe has become a small village, as they say. And as knowledge expands, as people come together, as cultural interactions are there, you have got to continuously keep updating and adapting. This is what Rama, when we say Rama, in fact, you know how the story starts. The story starts with the conversation between Valmiki and Narada. The first shloka of Sri Ramayana starts with this shloka, Tapaswadhyaya Niratam, Tapasvi Vagvidambaram, Naradam Paripapracha, Valmikir Munipungavam. Valmiki, who is this Valmiki? He is Tapasvi Valmiki. So all our gods, all our seers, all our munis, all our saints are great tapasvis. What do you mean by tapasvi? Tapa alochane. They were not afraid of difficulties. They were not afraid of sorrow. They were not afraid of toiling. Tapas is basically toiling. Working hard. This working hard is not limited only to your physical working, but you have got to probe. You have got to try to understand. Karanantu dhyeyaha declares the Veda. You have to keep on probing. You have to find out what is this universe, how I must live, what I have got to contribute. Urdhvamulam, adhashakam, ashwatham prahuravyayam, chandamsi yasya paranani, yastam veda savedaviti. If you know the Veda, who is he who studies Veda? What's the use of studying the Veda? It is not that wherever you are, whatever you see, that is everything. Wherever, what you are doing, what you hear around you, what the people are telling around you, that may be some rubbish. You should not, mistake the reality for this rubbish. That is what Shankara said, adhyasa. Adhyasa is wrong understanding. So in your own cubicle, if you think what you see is the whole of reality, you're a fool. You're stupid. This is what is called moha. This is what is called maya. This is what is called ajnana. All along, The very name of our country is Bharata. Bha is light. Bha is enlightenment. We have got to strive all through, every day, minute by minute, to understand. This is what's called tapas. We shirk, we run away from toiling. We don't want any hard work. Don't confuse hard work when I say it is only some physical work. It is not so. We are all lethargic, not necessarily only physically, but mentally also we are lethargic. We run away. We want to, return to our what they call the safety zones, the comfort zones. We have our comfort zones. Comfort zone is it's not just physical, but mental also. We don't want to exert ourselves a little extra. But all our gods, all our seers, all our saints, all our elders, they were tapasvis, tapasvi, tapomurtihi, taporashihi. Yoga and tapas. Sitting to do hard work is what is yoga. So Shiva is a yogi. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishnaha Yatra Parthodhanurdharaha. Yoga is the name of Vishnu in the Vishnu Sahasranama, And everywhere in all our Puranas, they are described as Tapomurti, Taporashihi. So here also we have two, which is Valmiki and Narada. Valmiki asks Narada, Tapaswadhyaya niratam. This Narada is also Tapaswadhyaya nirata. He is engaged in tapas and swadhyaya. We have got to keep studying, keep understanding, keep unveiling, disclosing the secrets of this world, not only to you, but to others as well, so that you would be of some use to your own self and to the world at large. So tapaswadhyaya niratam tapasvi vagvidambaram naradam paripapracha Valmikir Munipungavam. Valmiki asked, what was in the mind of Valmiki? Valmiki was thinking the same thing I was telling you all this while. He asked, one of the questions that he asked in the beginning is, Kasya bibhyasi devascha. I want to find an ideal human being. I want to write about him. I want to tell our people about a human being to whom we can look at or look up as the God. Kornvasmin sampratam loke gunavan kascha viryavan dharmajnascha kritajnascha satyavakyaha dhridavrataha charitrena cha koyuktaha sarvabhuteshu kohitaha vidwan kaha kassamarthaha kaschaika priyadarshanaha atmavan ko. Kaha means who. Have you come across, O Narada? Kaha Atmavan ko jitakrodhaha gunavan kascha viryavan dharmajnascha kritajnascha satyavakyo dhridavrataha charitrena cha ko yuktaha kaha yuktaha. So I want to write about somebody who can bring divinity. What is divinity? What is the idea of God? The idea of God is something that is perfect, something that is godly, something that is divine. When I say godly, when I say divine, when I say perfection, it is perfection in human life. What is this perfection? Perfection is not, the perfection of your thinking the perfection of your solitude, the perfection of your speculative thinking is not the perfection of philosophy, which is not connected with life. Life here is very important. You should live. How you should live. So the moral ideal, the ethical ideal, the ideal of life is not local. Life is not a part. You have to think of the whole. So life encompasses a very large area, and Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Mudachyate. You should think of the holistic dimension of life. You have to think of the vast cosmos. And when you say cosmos, when you say vast, when you say, so big and all that, it starts from you, where you are. You have a role. You are sent here. And you must be perfect here as a human being, as an individual. You have to do your duties first. It is not that I would like to escape from what I have got to discharge and settle in solitude, thinking of ideas. No. So there are two dimensions here at least. That is your solitude, your perfection, your metaphysics, your philosophy, knowledge. Okay, for what? Knowledge for what? Why you should advance? It is to live. Okay, by living what? You have got to wherever you are, whatever you are born in a family and you are somewhere and you must contribute something. So the practical aspects, that is what, the ideal and the practical. Ideal is connected with the idea. Idea is, is developing in your solitude. Solitude is necessary. It is for the analysis of the ideas. But why for these ideas at all? What's the use of these ideas? What's the use of knowledge if it is not concretized and used for your living? So the practical utility is very important. If the two, the practical aspect and the ideal aspect of reality are divorced, then there is no use of your knowledge. So this is what was troubling Valmiki. So Valmiki asked Narada, Konvasmin Sampradam Loke, I would like to write about a person who has been a kind of a divine human being. What all ideas, what all ideals, all those ideals are to be found in one person. And Narada contemplates and he thinks of Sri Rama. Sri Rama is not an idea. Sri Rama is not a concocted individual. This was there. Ramo Nama Janai Shrutaha. Janaihi Shrutaha. It is not that, Valmiki wrote a fiction. He invented Sri Rama. No. Till recently, nobody indulge in any kind of fiction. You may be surprised, but I have told you many times, never. We always wrote something, and if at all a literary piece stood the test of time, it is only that literary piece which finds a sanction of mature minds that would survive, and these are not fictions. All our Sanskrit poets, all our poets in our regional languages, till recently, they did not write, whatever that came to their mind. Of course, when the printing press was not there, printing was not discovered or invented, it was very difficult for people to write and people to preserve the writing or the books. It is only recently, it's just 100 or 200 years, that's all. Before that, it was not possible for anybody to write. So only few writers were there, and even those writers, the theme of their writing was either Ramayana or Bharata or the Puranas. So whether it is Kalidasa or Bhavabhuti or Shudraka or Bana, take any of them, all of them, you name it, it has some episode they collect from these epics, and on that they develop. As you all know, Abhijnana Shakuntalam of Kalidasa is developed on the basis of a small episode in the Mahabharata. Similarly, all the dramas that are written by Bhasa, they are all on a particular episode that you find in either Ramayana or Mahabharata. So if you do a bit of research, you find that till recently, it is so with regional writers also. Till yesterday, Ramayana Darshanam of Kuvempu is based on Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana. The same Ramayana is being told and retold. It is Tulisidasa Ramayana, Kamba Ramayana, this Ramayana, that Ramayana. And our poets in the regional languages, they don't invent some story. Same thing was with Valmiki also. Valmiki asked Narada, Ko nu asmin sampratam loke. He must be here. And now Narada relates. See, I hear Ramo Nama Janaishrutaha Niyatatma Mahaviryaha Gunavan. All these, these qualities that you are, the ideals that you are looking for, I have heard it was Rama of Ikshvaku dynasty. And this is how he lived. I'll tell you the story. He relates. He tells the story as he had heard from the past, from his elders. Narada is known for having, he keeps on going around, and he is one of our Chiranjeevis. He goes from place to place. He knows everything. He knows what's happening where in this big universe. And so, what happened? He relates about now Narada takes leave of him. Valmiki is very happy. He keeps on thinking about the development of the story, and for this He has to concentrate again, tapas. It is not that he can write anything. Pana Vamalakam Yatha. Valmiki says that it was possible for him to visualize. He visualized in yoga what all happened. And again, he gives a list of what happened. It is a kind of, in a book you have a chapter, the contents of the whole book are given in one place. In a similar manner, Valmiki also, in one of the, I think the third sarga, he gives what happened to the story of Sri Rama, how he was born, and how he was educated, and how he was married, and then how he was deprived of his coronation, how we went to the forest, what all happened in the forest, how he met so many sadhus, so many seers who were all disturbed and troubled by the demons, and he vows to uproot all the demons there, and Khara and Dushana and Ravana, and how Sita was abducted, how the monkeys were befriended, how they crossed the ocean, how they quelled Ravana, and how he was brought back on the Pushpaka Vimana, and how finally he was coronated. The story, what Narada told, and then how it was visualized by Valmiki in solitude, in dhyana, in his yoga, in his contemplation, in his meditation. All, there are two versions as told by Narada. That's the first gist of Ramayana, as told by Narada to Valmiki. Again, as Valmiki witnessed within. So two gists are there. Now, after his contemplation, he asks his, disciple who is very near, Bharadwaja. Bharadwaja was his disciple. And he asked Bharadwaja, come on, let's go and have our midday ablution. They went to river Tamasa. Valmiki going in front, and his disciple Bharadwaja following him. And the whole place is so serene. He is enjoying the beauty of nature. Externally, he is seeing and enjoying nature, and internally, he is lost in contemplation. He thinks of ideas. He thinks of Rama and his life. He thinks of divinity in humanity, the play of divinity in humanity. And it was at this time when he was about to get into the waters to have an ablution. Suddenly, what happened? There was a hunter, and he killed a krauncha pakshi. It was a bird. Two birds were playing on the branch of a tree. One was quelled by a hunter, by an arrow, by means of an arrow. It fell down, and the female bird started yelling. And he was upset. See, there is a contrast now. He was disturbed. He was totally, he was shaken. Why? Because earlier he was in a contemplative mood. He was, he was in a cloud. He was thinking of Rama and his story, and he was enjoying the calmness and serenity of the nature around. And just before that, he was telling, Ramaniyam prasannambu sanmanushya manoyatha, how fine these still waters are there, how clear it is. When I see this water, the clarity of this water, I remember sanmanushya manoyatha, the mind of a san manushya, a good man, a good person, a good individual, is also as clear as this water. What is mind? Mind is nothing but flow of thoughts. So here also there is flow of water, and this water, the clarity, look at this clarity. When I see this clarity, I remember, or I get into my mind the clarity, the um, the serenity of a clean mind, a good individual. So when he was thinking all this, suddenly what happened? Suddenly there is a shrieking sound, and he witnesses a bird falling down, and it is in a pool of blood, and it is whirling. And up above, there is its mate, the female bird, it is crying. So he was nonplussed, he was disturbed, he was very angry with the hunter. So immediately he curses him. Manishadar patishtantam agamas shashvati samaha yat krauncha mithuna ekam avadhihi kamamohitam. At a time when they were enjoying, when they were making love, you have killed the male bird, and how unmindful you are of what's going on around. Don't you have this much of sense? How to sensitize these people about the joy of others? Now, as soon as this is an incident, this incident is over, the bird is killed, one bird is killed, the other is bailing, and the hunter was cursed. He is, he goes away. That is his job. A hunter is a hunter. What generally happens, this is what, this is what I was telling you a little while earlier. The world of ideas is different, and the practical world is different. Now, Valmiki takes bath and he goes back. Bharadwaja also takes bath and he follows his master. He goes home, he goes to his hermitage, and he is disturbed. What is this disturbance? This is a disturbance of all of us. Solitude, knowledge, contemplation, metaphysics, philosophy, all these are on the one side. And on the other side, you have this practical life, this hustle bustle of life. Now, how to connect the two? This is very important. As long as I am speaking a philosophy, it is fine. As long as we are spending our time here, thanks to Vani and Vasudev, we have forgotten everything else and we can enjoy. But next moment, okay, we spend our time, we speak of philosophy, we speak, Karanantu Dhyeyaha is fine. This cosmos, fine. Your tapas, fine. all this knowledge and solitude and ideas, they won't work when you are in this practical life. You have got to function. Functionality is most important. Day in and day out, minute by minute, you have got to live. So this started worrying Valmiki. So you see, it is a very complex situation. Valmiki is about to create something. What is it that he is creating? He is not creating some a fiction. He is, bringing down the essence of the Vedas. Vedaha prachechasadasiti sakshat Ramayanatmana. If Rama comes down, the Paranjyoti, the God, comes down as Sri Rama, Veda itself comes down through Valmiki as Ramayana. So Veda and Ramayana are not separate. They are not two things. Ramayana is Veda. Same thing with Mahabharata also. Bharata Panchamo Vedaha. That is what our tradition says. All the Puranas. Just because we have been indoctrinated or brainwashed that, these Puranas are mythology, some stories and all that, we don't understand the importance of these. But if you give some time, if you shed your laziness, that's what I was telling, this mental lethargy, tapas, they have got to undertake. If you undertake tapas and study, then you will find what this Veda, how this Veda has flowed. It is a current, the current of knowledge. It has been coming. It is, something like, if you go to the Ganga, the root of Ganga, to the Alakananda or Haridwar or Rishikesh, the same Ganga is flowing elsewhere also. Same thing with Kaveri. If you go to the origin, there it is gushing. But here also, even here in Srirangapatnam or any of these tributaries, it is the same Kaveri that is flowing. You have to understand, in a similar manner, it is the same Veda that flows down. It has got so many branches, it has got so many tributaries, and Veda is Bharata, Mahabharata. Veda Sarvopanishado Gavo, Dogdha Gopalanandanaha, Partho Vatsaha, Sudhihi Bhokta. You must understand Veda. Understanding Veda was possible for those who lived at that time, the Vedic times. But today it is not Vedic times. It has changed. The essence or the message of the Veda is what is required. It is not the letter of the Veda. That is the difference between India and other places. That's the difference between, our scriptures and the scriptures of people in other places. There is a continuity, there is a flow, and there is an adaptation, and there is an updating, and this has happened time and again. So, this is a complex situation, I told you. Valmiki, again, he was nonplussed, and he contemplated, and there comes Brahma. The Chaturmukha Brahma arrives, and he blesses him. It is difficult for you to understand what is this all. Machanda devate brahman pravritteyam saraswati Ramasya charitam kritsnam kurutvam rishi sattama. What all has happened, it has all has happened for good. This is how new creation starts. There is a dilemma. This is what, the Arjuna Vishada Yoga, how the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna was upset. It is only when a person is upset, all our scriptures, they're in the form of some samvada, a form of, somebody is upset, somebody wants to know, somebody is totally disillusioned. And these are the moments when there is a conflict between the practicality and your ideation, then your probing starts. And when you probe very deep, divinity helps you. So it is Brahma who comes and clarifies, and then Valmiki starts writing. Okay, what is this Ramayana now? What is the story that our Valmiki has passed on to us? This story is about an ideal monarch who descended as the king in Ikshvaku dynasty. We had different dynasties. They're all, it is history. It's all very clearly documented. Our Puranas are our documents. We have not looked into them. If only it is possible for you to spend some time to understand what these Puranas are, how different tributaries of the same river have developed and flown from time to time in different areas, covering, different spatial and temporal sections of this universe. It will be possible for us to understand the implication, the reality, and the significance of these Puranas. So here, the story of Rama, as told by Valmiki, different people might have interpreted the story of Ramayana in their own way, but the original Ramayana is Valmiki Ramayana. And in this Valmiki Ramayana, we find Sri Rama as an ideal human being. We have got to be first a human being. There is a shift. There is a shift from, the concept of Vedic deities and this avatara. What is avatara? Avatara is descension. Descending is coming down. You have to see here. This is what our acharyas, whether it is Shankara, or Ramanuja, or Madhva, or Chaitanya, or Nimbarka, all of them, they tell us, look to your elders. Look to ideal human beings here. That is what Krishna in Bhagavad Gita also tells the same thing. Shishta, yad yad acharati shrestha, tattareva itare janaha, sayat pramanam kurute, lokastadanu vartate. It is not possible for you to find God. It is not possible for you to see God. It is not possible for you to visualize God. God, divinity, ideation, physics, metaphysics, philosophy, knowledge, all these are on one side. But on the other side, living is important. And here, around you, within your reach, you first learn to see God here. Matra Devo Bhava, Mitra Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava. That's what the Upanishads also tell. If you don't care for the people around you, if you do not have any kind of, gratitude, if you are not grateful to the people around you who have been giving you so much, if it is not possible for you to recognize what your elders, what your earlier servants, how this society has given you, what all resources that you are equipped with, if you just think of the remote causes, forgetting the immediate ones that has helped you, then it is not possible for you to enjoy or understand divinity. Now we have to learn something. We have to learn by reading the Veda, by reading Ramayana, by understanding Sri Rama. What is it that we learn? Valmiki says, try to live like Rama. Valmiki, again and again, he stresses that don't look upon Sri Rama as the God above. He is one among you. It is avatar. What is our concept of God? You know, there is one Paranjyoti, and he divides himself into three for the creation, maintenance, and withdrawal. And that is what we call the Trimurti, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. And it is maintenance. Vishnu is in charge of maintenance. He is in charge of organization. So the cosmos has its own dynamism, and this dynamism of the universe is conceptualized as Vishnu. And because he has to maintain this universe, even here in our human sphere, he comes down once in a while. He evolves. So we have the Dasha Avataras. It is again an evolution. The amoeba, the single-celled amoeba, then the fish, then the the amphibian. You have got representatives of amphibian in the tortoise, the Matsya, Kachapa, and then Varaha. Again, there is growth, there is expansion, there is evolution. Then you come to Narasimha, half man and half lion. Then you have Parashurama. Parashurama is there only to kill. He keeps on killing the monarchs themselves. Then as you go ahead, you have Balarama, you have Parashurama, you have Sri Rama, you have Balarama, you have Sri Krishna, you have Kalki. So there is a growth, there is a gradual evolution, and he is there, the divinity descends, he is there amidst you. You have also grown, you have also, each of these Mamayivamsho Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, each of the Jivas is growing. When I was a fish, God was there with me as a fish. So that's how I have to think. That's how we have to try to understand. He is there with us. I have also come through all these stages. He has been with us. As I have been growing, he is also with us. So as a human being, he has come down as Sri Rama. Why? To show us the ideas, to give us the yardstick, fix the yardstick. This is what, when Sri Krishna tells of the ways one has to live. In the second chapter, we learn about Sthita Prajna. How does Sthita Prajna live? This is what, Arjuna asked Sri Krishna. Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha. How does he live? How does he? Kimacharaha, katham kotra. How does he speak? How does he move around? What are his ways? What Sri Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita as precepts, they are all found here, and Sri Rama, you find Rama as a model. And as a model, he tells you the situations, so many situations in his life. He is a human being. To look upon Sri Rama as a model, to look upon Sri Rama as a divinity is one thing, but to read Ramayana and to go through the circumstances that made Sri Rama evolve into a divinity, these two are together different. For those who do not study Sri Ramayana, for those who cannot appreciate what Valmiki intends in developing the character of Ramayana, it is difficult. It is difficult for you from a distance to say that Rama is God is one thing, but to see how Rama goes through the mill, how he goes through all the travails of a human life, and how he involves and stands up and above. This is the real lesson that you can learn. As long as we are human, it is difficult for us to maintain the same perfection in action, perfection in our moral level. There are so many inducements. There are so many temptations. These temptations harass us all along. We fall, we commit sins. We try to conceal our faults and hope that others would not detect them. This is our weakness. Valmiki tells that Sri Rama also had all these weaknesses. Though he is hailed as Maryada Purushottama, though he is unequaled and unmatched in his moral rectitude, though he retains his position of honor and glory, Valmiki shows Sri Rama that he lived like any other ordinary human being. He did so many things in his life which his higher nature would not approve. Valmiki depicts Sri Rama as an individual who was subject to human frailties. Troubles depressed him. Sorrows struck him hard. He underwent moments of distress. He cried. He wept bitterly. He was angry sometimes. He was in despair sometimes. He even talked of committing suicide so many times. When he talks with Lakshmana, this is in privacy. So many times he has expressed this. He used to suspect people, and he used to suspect even praiseworthy people. And these weaknesses and whims or whimsical instances, they don't make Rama cheap. Rama stands out immaculate. His fragile human nature, though made explicit by Valmiki in his Ramayana, Rama somehow stands out. This is what Valmiki wants to pass on. He beckons us to raise above all human frailties by following the footsteps of Sri Rama. I have little time. I wanted to give you some of the instances, quote from the text. Now, in the little time that is available to me, I'll take one or two instances and I'll close.
Sir, if you want, you can also continue it into a second talk.
Okay, let's see. Now let us take, how Rama was educated. All of us do not know. Valmiki does not, tell about his childhood in detail like what we have, the story of Sri Krishna in Bhagavata. We are told he was born and he was educated. Whatever was necessary for a prince, all these instructions were passed on to him. It was Vasishtha, with the help of other teachers, that educated him. And suddenly what happens, there appears this Vishwamitra. What does this Vishwamitra do? Who is this Vishwamitra? Vishwamitra is the real guru of Sri Rama. What did Vishwamitra do? Vishwamitra took him away from Dasharatha. He took him, he was performing sacrifices, and he made Sri Rama and Lakshmana encounter very difficult situations. They killed Tataka, Subahu, and Maricha. And all along, you have conversation. Rama keeps on questioning Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra answers him very patiently. And the bond between Sri Rama and Vishwamitra is a unique bond. And in the same, Balakanda, we are also told about who is this Vishwamitra. How, as a king, he took it as a challenge. He became a Brahmarshi. And he fought with Vasishtha. And later on, he was praised by Vasishtha. And it's a very hard way. he developed himself, he evolved himself in a very hard way. And all that, it is a kind of a passive instruction, passive learning. Rama learns so many things. Rama is developed into a full-fledged human being only by Vishwamitra. And Vishwamitra is not to be seen, I tell you. Vishwamitra comes and goes. The moment you say Sri Rama's, Valmiki's Ramayana or Sri Rama's story, the part played by Vishwamitra is so high, but he comes for a while and later on we don't see Vishwamitra anywhere. He is lost. This is how it happens. Even in our lives, there are so many people who have helped us. And so many directly and indirectly, those who have contributed to our build, to our evolution, to our development, to our education, to our maturity and learning. There are so many who are acknowledged, there are so many who are not acknowledged. This gratefulness we have got to develop. We have got to think of these people and we must be grateful to them. And he was married, he comes back, and suddenly Dasharatha decides to coronate him as the Yuvaraja. Dasharatha calls him and tells him that you will be just tomorrow in itself. I have got to coronate you because I am seeing, dusswapnas, bad dreams. I want to finish it off tomorrow itself. Rama is very happy. And again, Dasharatha sends for Sri Rama again. Once he was told that he is going to be coronated, next moment, Dasharatha and Kaikeyi together, they changed the course of action which the king had determined previously. Sri Rama was summoned again. He was asked to go to the forest. We are told that Rama came to know that he had to renounce the kingdom, and when he came to know about this, he remained calm as ever. No change was visible in his noble countenance and so on. But he might have not shown or exhibited his disappointment. He might have retained his greatness, his glory and perfection, but he actually was disturbed. When his coronation was cancelled, he thought of Sita, he thought of Kausalya, he thought of Lakshmana, he thought of his friends. What he was expecting previously, he was excited about it, and he looked forward to his father to coronate him. He looked forward to his prosperity. He wanted to share his prosperity with all his near and dear ones. Sri Rama declares to Kausalya, when he first learned that he is going to be coronated, and also to Sita with great pride that he is going to be the Yuvaraja. And the moment, it was the moment when Sumantra comes and asks Rama to go and meet his father for the second time. Where was Sri Rama? Sri Rama was with Sita. He was chatting with Sita. Sumitra comes to take Rama. And before leaving Sita, to accompany Sumitra to meet Dasharatha, Rama tells his wife, my father and mother Kaikeyi are planning something nice about me, I know. Great things are there in store for me. Kaikeyi is very fond of me, Knowing the great intention of Dasharatha, she perhaps wants the king to expand and hasten the preparations. I am certain that I am being now summoned to be the Yuvaraja, the second and the young king. While I go and learn about the developments, you be here, rest here happily. So when he goes, when the worst was known, when he comes back, he first goes to his mother. He breaks the bad news. He tells his mother about what had all happened. He tells her about the reversing of the original plan. Kausalya was to be pacified because she had great expectations. Valmiki says that Sri Rama was actually dejected at that time, but he somehow controlled his unhappiness within his heart. There was unhappiness within. There was perturbation. He was grief-struck. He concealed and conquered his agony. Dharayan manasa dukkham, indriyani nigrihya cha, pravivesha atmavan veshma, matuhu, apriya shamsivan. This is what the poet says. Again, it was worse when he had to meet Sita. He was perturbed further. He started behaving like a very ordinary fellow. Only thing is, he did not weep and roll on the floor like any others. But as I read the shloka, Pravivesha atha Ramastu swam veshma suvibhushitam. I think it's time now. We'll continue next time. What I wanted just to tell you is that as a human being, Rama, the Paranjyoti descending here on the earth, he has come here only to show us how it is possible for us to bring down our ideals to the practical life and make this life a happier one, not only to ourselves, but to the people all around. Thank you.